Hey, welcome back to the podcast. This is, in full transparency, my second time sitting down to record this episode. I recorded it originally and I was like, Vanda, you just rambled and it probably didn't make a whole lot of sense. So I am going to try to reel myself in and help this make sense the way that I intend for it to. Today, I'm recording this at the very end of the day and my brain feels a little bit fried. I have had a day at work and, because, yeah, for those of you that may or may not know, I do still work a full-time job in conjunction with running this business, which I love it. It's great, but some days it is hard. And today has been a rough, like mentally taxing day at work, at my full-time job work. So anyway, I hope that you really enjoyed last week's episode. Having a guest was really fun for me. I had kind of avoided that from the beginning of starting this podcast. And at first, I was like, I don't want to have guests. I just want it to be, me in solo episodes, and that's just the way that I want it, and that's why I'm not going to have guests. And that was partly true, but I was also kind of intimidated by having guests and just the whole process of having guests, and also there's like scheduling things to consider, but I also don't want to edit my podcast. And so I've made that very clear to anyone that's coming on the podcast that it will not be edited, and that is just like really important to me because number one, I don't have time to edit. But number two, and the reason that it's like important to me is because I feel like it's authentic to just sit down and have a conversation. And I would like to think that regardless of whether or not I say or like 50,000 times in an episode, you guys still like identify with me. I'll feel aligned with me and what I'm talking about and want to hear what I have to say. So I feel like just sitting down and hitting record is the most authentic way that I can show up and present content in this form. And it's just important to me to feel like I'm being my true self when I show up here, not some like weirdly edited version. So, there will be more guests coming on the podcast throughout the year. I'm very excited about it. I'm currently planning to have at least one guest a month. I'm in conversation with people about some really exciting topics that I do want to bring to the podcast. And I'm like, I don't know if I can just fit them in 11 episodes to like touch all the bases that I want to. So there might be months where there's more than one, or we might have a whole month of just guest episodes. I don't know. I will, plan that out as I go along and as it feels like the topics would be most pertinent, maybe. So, that being said, if there are any topics that you are really curious about, that you would really like to hear about, please let me know. Send me an Instagram message over at Wellness with Vanda or reply to one of my emails if you're in my email community and let me know. And I will look for someone to speak on that topic if I'm not an expert on it. Or even better, if you have a certain person that you're like, I would like to hear you interview this person because they talk about this. Send them my way and I'll outreach to them and see if they want to come on the podcast. Okay, today's topic, this is going to be short and sweet, which is exactly what I like these episodes to be because I know you're busy and honestly, I'm busy. This topic was inspired by my husband. Hopefully, he doesn't care that I'm sharing this. I haven't told him yet that I was going to do a podcast episode about this. But he recently has started mainly drinking just water, moving away from having Cokes, tea, lemonade, and really focusing on water, which I think is great. That's what I do myself. I do have the occasional Coke. I've recently really, really fallen in love with Spindrift, which is sparkling water with natural flavors. So I don't consider that to be like a Coke or a treat, but some nice flavoring anyway. Um, However, he has shared with me that he is annoyed a little bit because he feels like now that he's drinking water all the time, he's having to pee all the time. And I was like, oh, you haven't really learned anything from me at all, have you? Like, you're not thinking about the fact that now that you're drinking all this water, you need to be adding minerals to it. And it was just a really, I don't know, interesting moment for me to really reflect because I was like, that's something I feel like I talk about all the time. Of course, he would know that, and clearly he doesn't. He was like, "No, I I'm sure I've heard you say that maybe once before or something, but it's not like I don't feel like you say it all the time or anything. So he and I are going to work on that over the next few days. But it made me realize that like even though I feel like I've made this very clear and that I have talked about it a bunch, maybe here on the podcast a time or two, in my emails, and then on like my Instagram stories and in my Instagram content. It's also important for me to always remember that there's constantly new people coming into this community, and sometimes I need to revisit the most important topics so that I can ensure that everyone within my community like has access to that information. So that's why we're talking about it today. Um, and basically, the point of this whole episode is that you need to add minerals to your water in order for your body to be able to best absorb that water into the inside of your cells to truly hydrate you. That way, your cells can then be working optimally. And when they're working optimally, our body works more optimally. And when the body works more optimally, we feel a lot better. And it absolutely impacts our energy levels. So I did want to kind of give an explanation as to why these minerals help. So specifically, we're going to think about sodium and potassium. So those are electrolytes, and they help open up your cells to receive in the H2O, your water, and hydrate the cells. And that way, the body has better absorbed it. When the body is not able to do that, when those channels are not as easily opened, then you have extra fluid that is sitting in the extracellular space, which is the parts of your body that's outside the cell. So sometimes you'll see this, like if you have swelling and stuff. But anyway, then when it's sitting in that space, it's like your body it's not really utilizing it for anything. And it's going to eventually get to the kidneys and get flushed out through urination. We want to make sure that, like we're doing this health conscious thing by trying to drink more water. So we want it to actually benefit us. And if you're like, I hate the whole 75 hard thing where they're like, you need to drink a gallon of water a day. For a lot of people, that's too much water. And it actually, when you're not adding minerals to your water and you're just drinking all of this plain water and you're having to pee all the time, you're actually flushing minerals out of your body and you're like further depleting yourself. So there's a few things that I would recommend to you if you find yourself in this situation and you're like, yeah, actually, I have to pee all the time, really, regardless of what you drink. But number one, I want you to evaluate how much you're consuming in a day. So to give you a goal target number to achieve, you want to take your body weight in pounds, divide it by 2.2, and whatever that number is the number of ounces of water you want to try to be getting every day. If you're drinking way more than that, then first of all, cut back to that number. Second thing I want you to do is when you are going to the bathroom, making all of these trips in there, before you flush, take the second to look at the toilet bowl and see what color your urine is. If it's like clear and you can't even hardly tell it's in there, then you need to add minerals because it's almost like you're too hydrated. You have too much fluid. On the flip side of that, if it's dark or orangey or brown colored, then you need more water. But, and then third thing that I wanted to share is kind of the way you can go about adding minerals to your water. Few different options. My favorite option is to get a mineralized powder, flavored powder of some form, and add it to my water. Currently, my favorite brand is Cure. They have a wide selection of flavors, and every one of them I have tried has been good. I have some of my favorites, but they're all good. You've got Jigsaw Health that has Pickleball that they're currently rebranding and renaming to be a potassium something. I need to look that up, but anyway, it's the same thing. And then they have Electrolyte Supreme. You have Redmond Relight that has a variety of flavors as well. You have Limit, LMNT. That one's very high in sodium, so just be conscious of that if you're someone that needs to be mindful of your sodium intake. And then there's a bunch of other options out there on the market. Try some of those, find a flavor that you like and have one to two of them a day and just see like what change you notice in how frequently you're going to the bathroom and the color of your urine because you want it to be like a pale yellow color. I don't think I said that a second ago. Do you want it to be a pale yellow? The other option is you can buy mineral drops. Trace Elements is the brand that I would recommend if you're going to go that route. And you can add those directly to your water and things like coffee. Um, they do, depending on how much of them you add, I do personally feel like they give your water or beverage a little bit of a metallic-y taste, and I don't care for it. So I never add the full amount that it recommends on the bottle. I will do 5, 10, 15, sometimes even 20 individual drops and multiple times a day. Like in almost everything I'm drinking that day. If it's like water or a flavored water, then I'll add it in there and I never taste a difference. No, you're not going to get the same bang for your buck there because you're not getting the same amount of the electrolytes as you would if you were doing like one of the powdered versions, but it's still better than nothing and will still help you. So that's an option. You can do a combination of the two. Yes, you can also incorporate things like Gatorade, Body Armor, Powerade. But you just have to think about whether or not for you those choices align with what your goals are. A lot of those have a lot of sugar. They have some questionable ingredients in them. They have some dyes in them. All of those things are for you to, take into consideration and make a personal choice about. But just know that, it is an option. So, to wrap this all up and quickly recap, if you are drinking a lot of water and it is causing you to have to pee a lot, you need to add some minerals and electrolytes to your water. Check the color of your urine. You want it to be pale yellow. All right. I am going to love you and leave you there for this week. I will be back to talk with you next week.